morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, from wherever you're joining us, all around the world, maybe Europe. I'm actually in Vegas today, so it's an early one for me. But yeah, I'm really glad to be here. So we've got two great speakers to join myself. So today we're going to be talking about ransomware resilience, and hopefully that's made easy with HYCU and OVHcloud and Nutanix. Um, so we're going to go straight in. We've got an action-packed agenda, a couple of little housekeeping bits and pieces. Please ask some questions. We've got a Q&A section at the end. If it's a really good question, we'll actually stop the slides and dive in straight to the questions because that's what you guys want to hear about. So if there's a real burning question, please put it in the chat or the Q&A function. You will get a copy of the slides and a copy of the recording afterwards as well to share out, and it will be available on demand via the HYCU website post session as well. Right, so let's dive in. So we've got three great speakers today. So myself, my name is Chris Rogers. I'm a senior product marketing manager here at HYCU. I cover all of our Nutanix and hybrid cloud relationships. And then two more great speakers. So guys, do you want to introduce yourself? Maran, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having us in this webinar. I am Marwan Boutayeb. I am the global unit lead for the product Nutanix on OVHcloud.
And I am Yassin Malki, Advisory Systems Engineer at Nutanix here, working with OVHcloud.
Amazing. Okay, three great speakers. Well, two and myself. So let's see how we go. So we got a great set of a bit of content for you. So I'm going to dive straight into the content to make sure we get through all the slides and give everyone the knowledge they need. So first, I'm going to hand over to Maran to talk about OVHcloud and what they do and a bit about them. So Maran, over to yourself.
Thank you, Chris. So OVHcloud, innovation for freedom. So it might seem just like a slogan for many, but for us, it's actually a mission that we make sure we fulfill. There are multiple ways of which we try to achieve that goal. The main ones will be the ones that you see in front of you. So secure, we make sure that your data remains your data, meaning that it belongs to you and only you can access it and be able to make any modifications to it. We try to also be innovative due to the fact that we build our own hardware. We are capable of not only saving at scale due to the quantities we order, but we also are able not to follow the classical life cycles that other producer might follow. Therefore, we deliver what you expect when you expect it so that you can run your workload for the most cost-effective long-term way. Sustainable by design, as I mentioned, we build our own hardware, but it's not the only play we leverage. We also leverage the way we consume energy, the way we cool our servers. All our servers are water cooled in data centers, so it enables us to provide customers the best PUE out there in the market. And finally, a fair price. We believe that you should only pay for what you need and not more. So providing the best performance price ratio due to the fact that we are, as I said, innovative and that we control our chain of value. Now, as a global service provider, how do we ensure your data remains your data, and what are the other added values we bring to the table for you? The first one would be geared towards the laws. By making sure that we enable you to have your data where you would like it to be located, we protect you from extraterritorial laws, and therefore we make sure that you are not submitted to any law from a foreign country in terms of legal aspects regarding your data. The second thing is our ethics. We don't look into your data. We don't look into your networking. We don't sell it. We don't use it. We don't transfer it. So thus, we provide you with a full control and a 360 overview of how you manage your data. Finally, looping back on the first point, because you can choose the data center among our 40 plus data centers worldwide, you can basically protect yourself by putting your data exactly where you want it to be. Finally, in order to validate all the previous point I just mentioned, we are submitted to the highest levels of compliance. Some of them international and some of them are local. In the following slide, we will be able to zoom in a bit more on the different compliance we are submitted to. So as you can see, probably you are concerned by one or more of the flags that you can see on the screen. If not, you are probably concerned with the ones that govern international approaches. So yeah, again, OVHcloud fully committed to making sure that we protect you from any foreign laws, or we enable you to protect your data and keep it yours. So as a global player, as I mentioned in the previous slide, you can see the full extent of our services, literally a hyperscaler. We are capable of managing pretty much any type of workload, and therefore the Nutanix on OVHcloud offering being one of the hosted private cloud workload at OVHcloud. The partnership between Nutanix and OVHcloud now has been lasting for quite some time now, and it's basically the promotion of the partnership between OVHcloud for the infrastructure by providing the underlying heavy lifting for the data centers, the networking, because again, we own the whole chain of value. Nutanix, a renowned hyperconverged software that sits on that hardware that we provide, and the managed service providers that either manage the product for the customers, or that can actually use it as a ground for their own requirements. A quick wink to the service provider award that was granted to us during the .next. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Chris, that you were also mentioned during the keynote.
Yeah, that's right, Maron. Yeah, so it was a great event. Unfortunately, I didn't manage to get out there to myself, but I watched a lot of it on demand. And yeah, during the keynote, completely unprompted. Unfortunately, we didn't actually get our logo up, but yeah, the customers and the partners were talking about HYCU and how the US Navy actually protect all their critical workloads with HYCU. So yeah, it was a great event for both of us. You obviously guys winning an amazing award, and us being mentioned in the keynote, for all those people to hear about how great we do it. So you can really see the kind of collaboration between the three vendors on the call here.
Yep, and during our presentation, we were able to also leverage the presentation of use cases, testimonies by our customers that actually were using HYCU as a backup solution. So it made sense, as you said. So yep, the partnership between Nutanix and OVHcloud since dating back since 2021, if I'm not mistaken. So what is the Nutanix on OVHcloud product? It's a pre-installed offering. We deploy the clusters and install Nutanix on it. We put a password. It's a really turn-on key solutions that enables customers and partners to actually get on with the added value of their respective scopes. And it's fully scalable. You can add nodes to your cluster or remove them depending on the seasonality or the requirement of your workload. We offer one of the most granular range out there. I think, if I'm not mistaken, up to 192 different t-shirt sizes. You can really basically customize the CPU, the RAM, and the disk that you consume, thus making it really cost effective because you stick to your requirement for your workload. And the last but not least, since we make sure that we are not opaque and that we are transparent and predictable in our approach, we natively include in the product a 10 gig bandwidth, 10 gig public internet bandwidth, that enables you to leverage most of the service requirement nowadays. And that bandwidth is fully unquoted, meaning that we don't charge for any egress or ingress fees, which is pretty important when you want to keep the cost down. The products that are compatible, if I have to mention one, would be HYCU, obviously. But the partnership with HYCU started, I think, a couple of years ago. And we actually went to quite some extent in order to make sure we were capable of proposing what would be the most suitable for customers, both of OVHcloud, Nutanix, and HYCU. And we have come up with the t-shirt size of packages that are predictable in terms of cost. We also went to the extent of validating the S3, the OVHcloud S3 storage with HYCU. So it also enables you guys to do backups for your collaborative suites and among other workloads. So yeah, really the partnership is a really strong one. The HYCU for OVHcloud product, now zooming on that one. So the idea behind it was to provide, just like we do with Nutanix on OVHcloud, a turn-on key solution for your HYCU product, meaning that at OVHcloud, you literally can get everything you need in order to kickstart your production and exploit your workload directly. So easy to install. I think that the HYCU Nutanix integration is something that we don't need to mention anymore. It's self-explanatory, I think. Secured because of the Nutanix software layer and because of the fact that we stick to their operating system versioning is obvious. Predictable by price because we propose the most common t-shirt sizes in terms of workload and is very known by the partners out there. HYCU is, and I actually got the chance to during the S3 qualification replay a little bit with HYCU. And I mean, it's silly how fast you can spin the appliance and start backing up. I mean, I had forgotten and I was reminded. Yeah, a setup that enables you to back up. We like to also keep the approach of Nutanix as being a hybrid cloud player. So it could be that you are in one, two clouds or on-prem and in the cloud. Well, that really doesn't matter because HYCU is capable of backing up all your workloads, no matter where they are located. It's really a plug and play approach. So you can back up your workloads from your on-prem and your cloud directly onto an S3 bucket and secure your workload in that fashion.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mara, and thank you for taking us through the OVH section. That was really informative, and it kind of just showed the collaboration and how close the three kind of vendors and solutions work together. So I'm going to take over from a little bit now and kind of run you through the HYCU side of the house. So as Maran said, we HYCU is purpose built for Nutanix, right? So we are the number one data protection vendor for Nutanix in the world. We have very, very, very deep integration with Nutanix. We started with Nutanix. It's in our DNA. We've got multiple, just like OVH, multiple Nutanix designs and blueprints, and it's kind of that. It just feels like it's made for it. It doesn't feel retrofitted or anything else like that. It just feels like it fits perfectly in with Nutanix. And then we have the security piece. So actually, HYCU is one of the most secure backup platforms on the planet, and that's probably why OVH and Nutanix love us so much. It really goes in with that kind of, you saw how secure OVH was with all their amazing certificates and their compliance standards they meet, and all the regulatory requirements they meet. And then Nutanix, has an incredibly secure platform from the ground up. It was built that way anyway, and then HYCU is built on top of that as well. So we're the only data protection vendor to have a DISA STIG. I know this is mainly a European audience, but essentially it's a government agency in the US which certifies HYCU to say, you can run on all those three-letter agencies out there. Hence why the US Navy is allowed to use us on things like warships and stuff like that. They've got us installed. And then you look to the right-hand side of the screen and the actual coverage that we can do. The coverage of workloads in for Nutanix So it's not just about virtual machines. When people think about Nutanix, they go, "Oh yeah, it's great, you've got AHV and they running all these amazing virtual machines." But actually, their portfolio is far far larger than that. And HYCU, supports all of those pieces of the puzzle to make sure your hybrid cloud is successful. So from files to remote office, branch office sites, Nutanix database service, NC2, which I know OVH are in the process of getting certified on as well. And then the last but not least is the NPS score. And this is really, really important to all three organizations, making sure customers get the outcomes they want. An NPS score isn't just about how nice the software is or how good the support is. It's actually making sure that customers, when they purchase, they have an idea of what they wanted to use it for and what outcomes they needed. And if they got those outcomes, they give us a net promoter score, right? We have a net promoter score of 91. I think Nutanix is pretty much aligned with that as well. So that shows you how important and how customer focused the organizations are to make sure that the outcomes that you want as a customer, you achieve. And then the product that we have is actually called our cloud. So HYCU is the company and the product we sell is our cloud. And what does that give us? Well, it gives us total visibility, total protection, total recovery, and total control. And obviously, we're talking about Nutanix today, but actually, we all on the call know that Nutanix is only a singular part of most organizations' data strategies. They're going to have a hybrid multi-cloud strategy. That's the whole idea about Nutanix. That's why Nutanix was almost born, right? Understanding that customers need this hybrid multi-cloud, and they're going out and supporting workloads in AWS, GCP, Azure, on OVHcloud, obviously as well. But understanding that there's going to be workloads in potentially SaaS, so Microsoft 365, Atlassian, Box, Jira, GitHub, GitLab, those types of things people are using. These SaaS services are popular. And that's why we give you total coverage. So yes, we support Nutanix and we support everything on Nutanix, but we also cover 80 plus other workloads on top of that as well to make sure all of your data is supported and covered, giving you that total coverage. And then I just wanted to give you a quick rundown about the use cases. And I will ask Marwan and Yasin to come in on this in a second. But essentially, we have multiple different use cases for HYCU Cloud. So first one being application discovery, going in and looking at the applications inside of a Nutanix environment and saying, hey, this is a SQL server, this is an Oracle server. All of this completely agentless as well, giving you the best protection for those workloads. And obviously we have backup and recovery, the bread and butter that we do at HYCU. But then also things like disaster recovery, cyber resilience, which we're talking about today in some later slides, mobility migrations, long-term retention, maybe we're putting onto OVH S3 storage, security and compliance, a huge, huge piece of the puzzle, and then also data protection at the edge. And then underpinning all of that, if you know what Nutanix looks like, you know what Prism looks like, you'd be, hasten to think that this is actually Prism on the screen you're looking at now. This is actually HYCU. This is HYCU our cloud. We purposely designed HYCU to look like a Nutanix product, so it was easy to learn and there was a zero learning curve. So Maran and Yasin, out of these, do you have customers utilizing the majority of these use cases?
Yes, actually, we have customers that use it in various different ways, but the backup and recovery being by far the most used ones. We have now customers that are starting to use a more specific part of the HYCU backup, meaning that they want to leverage the immutability of the S3 storage.
Mm-hmm.
They want to archive it, and obviously without the hassle of managing the rotation of that. But I think the critical point that's coming along more often for us is the application part. They are starting now to either want to leverage the application discovery or
Mm-hmm.
actually backup application specific workloads.
Amazing. Yasin, if any more commentary you want to add to this?
Yeah, something that interesting to share here because we are talking about, integrations, but as you told us, Chris, integrations go beyond the marketing integrations because the two teams between Nutanix and the HYCU and OVH collaborate together to build engineering technology, engineering platforms that simplify, the experience of our customers. It's not just like a partnership that we have in just in papers, but it's real customer outcomes that they will benefit from getting the three together because they are validated system and technologies. We have long-term partnership and roadmap to develop and accelerate and onboard customers on it. So it's something ready to consume from the three of us We have long-term story. We have customers, large customers using our technology. So this is how we combine the three of benefits of this technology together.
Amazing. Thank you, Yasin. Amazing. So when we look at kind of the use cases, this is a typical, I'm going to say it's an architecture, it's an architect. This is me playing around in PowerPoint. But essentially, the idea here is completely flexible. So and that's why OVH and Nutanix and HYCU love these options we give to customers, is that we don't force you into running somewhere you don't want to run. Right. As Marwan said earlier, they've got 40 plus different data centers all around the globe. But it doesn't mean you have to run production there. You could run production in your customer or your partner environment, still running your VMs, your apps, your objects, your files, etc. And then have OVH as your secondary site, maybe as a DR site, and then using HYCU to replicate that data, or even Nutanix to replicate that data, and HYCU to back it up into those systems as well. So give you that complete flexibility. But then also, if you wanted to use OVH as production, you can do that. But then also you can replicate between different data centers in OVH as well. Again, using Nutanix or using HYCU, storing that data in S3 storage from OVH as well. And then if you want to move back, guess what? You can use it as a tertiary site. You could have two sites. It's giving you complete control and complete flexibility of your data and your architecture and the way you want to move, and not tying you into any particular fixed way of working. Amazing if you wanted to scale out or if you want to grow into new regions, right? Guess what? Procuring data center isn't easy. So guess what? With OVH, you can go and say, actually, I'm growing into, I can say Germany or whatever other European region or around the world, and say, I'm going to grow my footprint there, but I need some workload there. Or actually, OVH can just provide you with an exact copy of what you have somewhere, in your main data centers, but in their environment as well. So, Marwan, is that something you see quite often with your customers? They utilize you to scale out their environments into different regions and then use you for DR sites and tertiary sites. Is that something that's very popular?
Absolutely. Most of our customers, when they leverage HYCU at OVHcloud, what they do is that they actually back it in a different data center where their object storage is from the one where their workload is exposed. So thus, again, adding one more layer of security and resilience for them.
Amazing. Yeah, amazing. Thank you very much for that. So let's look at kind of the modern data center, or the modern data estate, if you will. So 20 years ago, it was incredibly easy for people um, to protect their systems. It was on premises, everything was behind the firewall inside of the castle and the moat protecting it, right? And then we start moving into 10 years ago, and IaaS came around and OVH formed and started giving people amazing options for using clouds. And then we had started a little smattering of SaaS with maybe Office 365 a few years ago, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago now, Salesforce. And then we started to get into database as a service, platform as a service. So more players than IaaS came along. The on-premises systems started to shrink slightly. Some of the major players kind of sort of consolidated and acquisitions happened. And where we are today is a vast different world. So on premises, we've got, the Nutanix systems, and we've got OVH providing IaaS, far greater options for DBaaS and PaaS, including, OVH having all of those services you saw from Mauron earlier in those slides. Then we've got this explosion of SaaS. People are adopting SaaS because it's incredibly easy to do, which is a great thing for customers. But the biggest problem I find with customers when they adopt SaaS is realizing that they actually need to protect their data. The cloud providers and the SaaS people don't actually protect the data. Your data is inside their service. They're responsible for the service, but they're not responsible for the data. And if we look at some of the most popular attacks out there, we have kind of in three categories, really. So ransomware attacks on hybrid cloud. This is kind of like I'm going to say the normal attack we see, but this is kind of the one that's most prevalent in the industry right now and has been for the last 5 or 10 years. Encrypting virtual machines on systems like VMware and physical machines, etc. Crippling organizations. And actually, the industry's moved relatively well and quite quickly to kind of protect that. With most organizations, including Nutanix, have got great ways of rolling back data using their own systems, using HYCU and using those things like that. But actually, as we start moving into the other two here, so cloud conscious and SaaS attacks, and then supply chain and third-party attacks, this is where the industry really is lagging behind, and where we're trying as a three here to try and bring us forward into the new world. With cloud conscious SaaS attacks, they're actually going after that low hanging fruit and saying, well, actually, we can go and get a SaaS provider. We know that marketing haven't secured that particularly well in their environment that they bought for using the credit card. We know that in AWS, the skill set isn't quite there, or in Azure, the skill set isn't quite there to secure that workload, so we can go and attack that workload. And then the biggest ROI for attackers is a supply chain or third party attack. You look at some of these on the screen here. None of the customers at Snowflake did anything wrong, but unfortunately their data was breached. And that was because Snowflake themselves got breached, or the SaaS vendor themselves. And that's where huge ROI for attackers comes in, because they can attack one place, get access to potentially thousands or hundreds of thousands of customers, all from one thing. So how do we make sure we mitigate those circumstances? We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. So as I said before, legacy data protection focus has always been on the bottom stack. It's always been on the VMware environment. You look at most of the vendors in the world out there who offer this cyber resilience story, very, very limited for anything above the VMware stack. Occasionally we'll flitter with the Nutanix environment, but again, they 5, 10 years ago they were focused on the VMware stack and haven't invested like HYCU has invested in Nutanix. So therefore, the backup industry is offering you limited liability. You and your customers need full coverage to survive. And this is where we've introduced HYCU R-Shield. So a built-in cyber resilience fabric for HYCU R-Cloud. So we mentioned what HYCU R-Cloud was earlier, the total protection, total coverage, total freedom, etc. And now we're giving you an extra layer of security on top of that. So we essentially mold around 3 pillars: always protected, always observing, and always ready. So let's dive into what those mean. As I mentioned, HYCU R-Shield sits all the way around everything we do at HYCU. So it's weaved into every product, every service, everything that we do here. And it's not just about securing data, it's about giving people control and sovereignty over their data and locking it away and giving people choice and control as well. So let's look at always protected. So resilient backup infrastructure, reduced backup attack surface, a complete protection of all data. And unfortunately, the attackers know what you're going to do, right? They know that backups and secondary copies, tertiary copies are the way you get around cyber attacks, right? So if they manage to lock the primary copy, you can recover that. So 93% of hackers targeted backup repositories in recent attacks. That's a huge number. So we need to make sure that we have the most secure backup system in the world, and make sure we don't let the hackers in. We don't give them a choice to be able to attack us. So unfortunately, with legacy infrastructure and legacy players in that they introduce a large attack surface. So if we look at typical architecture or typical components you'd need for legacy products, you're looking at a backup server. And unfortunately, we're going to have to install some agents on some of the VMs because some of the workloads need certain types of protection. And then we're going to need proxy servers. And then we're going to need some different source hosts, some linking, some gateways, some backup repos. And all of these things have to interlink and have to talk to each other. So they become very chatty. They all run on different operating systems typically. Unfortunately, they will have a high chance of CVEs. We've seen those come out. So critical vulnerabilities, if anyone doesn't know what a CVE is. And unfortunately, all of these need patching and maintenance. And one of those systems gets missed or doesn't get patched in time, and then we can introduce potential risk into our environment. And the idea here is we do things a modern way at HYCU. So we have a near zero attack surface. So we have a zero design architecture. So as Marouane mentioned earlier, when they were going through the certification process, how easy it is to install, because we have one appliance, no hardware, nothing. We essentially drop our virtual appliance on top of Nutanix, installs in a matter of minutes. It's purpose built for Nutanix that works seamlessly, and we have no agents, no hardware, no backdoors, no proxies, no gateways, anything else like that. We integrate directly underneath into the underlying Nutanix tech stack using the APIs. And actually, some of the APIs that we use, we co-developed with Nutanix. That's how close the relationship that Yassin was mentioning earlier. We actually, co-develop with Nutanix to make sure that it works as well as it possibly can. And then we have things like backup data cloaking. We ensure that your backup repositories are off the network, they're isolated, and we give you continuous backup posture management. And what does that mean, Chris? That sounds a bit strange. All we're essentially saying is, we know what good looks like from a backup perspective and a security perspective, and we'll alert you if something doesn't. So for instance, if you're storing your data in OVHcloud's S3 compatible storage, and you store your data in a bucket, if that bucket suddenly has public access open to it, HYCU will alert you to say By the way, guys, no one else should see this data apart from HYCU. So why has it got public access? Why has it got read access out to somewhere else apart from HYCU? And that's what I mean by posture management, to giving you guys insights into if anything's changed on that bucket or anything changed on that storage system to say it's not secure anymore. As I mentioned, we have a hardened Linux appliance. So we're always having that security. We have stripped out everything out of the Linux operating system and only gives you what you need. So even SSH you can be fully disabled, so no one can even access in here. And we are military grade and battle tested. As I said, we've got all these different various regulations and security requirements for the three-letter agencies we run all around the world. So we're battle tested, military grade across all of these places. So, if people like the Navy and that in the USA are happy to run it on their warships, where literally it is probably life or death if things go wrong, right? You can kind of be rest assured that your data is going to be secure with HYCU, OVH, and Nutanix. And then let me look at the cloud. 60% of corporate data is actually now stored in the cloud, and our SaaS applications are a top target for bad actors. And unfortunately, 80% of breaches now occur in the cloud. As I said, I think we've done a great job in the industry of securing those on-premises workloads. But as we start stretching out for this hybrid multi-cloud world we want to live in, and going out and experiencing all the great things that Nutanix and OVH and all the other vendors in the world can offer us, we need to be conscious that we still need to bring security with us, and we still need to understand how to secure those workloads. So typically, we've got ransomware attacks, and so the industry have done a pretty good job. They're following the 3-2-1-1-1-0, how many zeros you want on there. This expanded from 3-2-1 rule. Immutable backups, runbooks, resilience testing. The vendors out there have done a great job of securing these workloads. But actually, what happens when we start moving into these SaaS and cloud workloads? Well, what happens if vendors misconfigure? There was a thing a few years ago with Google and managed to delete a whole customer's data across all their sites, right? That's nothing the customer did. That was just a misconfiguration from the vendor. But guess what? If they didn't have backups in a separate, isolated environment, they wouldn't have any way of recovering. What about insider threats? Disgruntled employees or someone who manages to get in, but also then supply chain attack. How do we mitigate all of that and make sure that your data is up and running wherever it needs to be? Typically, most organizations have more than 200 SaaS apps. That's actually crazy when you think about it. Most organizations will say, yeah, we're running maybe 3, 4. We've got Salesforce, we've got Office 365, we're using DocuSign, and on our team we use GitHub, GitLab or GitHub for their code. So we've got 4 or 5, and then we run rGraph, which is our data discovery tool, and most organizations have over 200. And typically, if we look at the major players in the backup market, there's only less than 10 supported by the current backup providers, apart from HYCU, that is, who have 80 plus. Normally, they only give you managed storage options. So again, like Marwan said, data control is incredibly important to most organizations now and becoming increasingly important as our friends in the US have decided to do some strange decisions over the last few months as well. Data sovereignty is becoming increasingly important now, and people going and saying, actually, maybe I don't want to store my data in AWS or Azure anymore. Maybe I want to store it on OVHcloud because they're European, right? Maybe I want to keep it in region, in Germany, in the UK, right, where I'm obviously from. We obviously decided to leave Europe, for whatever reason that was. Now data laws are saying we have to keep data inside of the UK. So maybe we want to do that as well. Limited mutability options. Again, if you're storing someone on someone else's cloud, they've only got soft locks. They haven't got the hard locks like we have with OVH. And then they don't have access to data in a supply chain attack. So if Office 365 down or Box.com is down, most people just have to sit and wait it out, right? Because their backups are stored directly into there. If the application's not available, the data's not available. So they'd have to sit and wait. That's not a great strategy for anybody when you've got critical data waiting to make decisions on. So this is where we really do come in. So Nutanix, HYCU, and OVH. So you can see this modern data estate here. So the hybrid cloud, the modern apps, and the SaaS apps. All of this data can be backed up by HYCU and then landed on Nutanix objects. So if you've got Nutanix object cluster on premises or in OVHcloud, or also into OVHcloud object storage, as we said earlier, fully certified now with HYCU to make sure every single use case is covered, full immutability, all those things are covered. So you can actually take all of this data, bring it back down onto wherever you're putting it. So let's say you've got Microsoft 365 data in Germany, for instance. You've chosen that because it has to stay in Germany. You've configured your Microsoft 365 to make sure all that data stays there. Well, guess what? Now you can bring that data or that backup back down into your German data centers, into OVH's German data centers, into OVH's object storage, and make sure it never ever leaves. All of that data can now be then processed and understood and recovered from those regions, giving you total control and total sovereignty of your data. So, Maren, do you think this is important for customers? Is this something you're seeing more and more now when you're talking to customers about, obviously not just Nutanix. I mean, the Nutanix data is great and it's been backed up, very well, but actually make sure we keep it in region, making sure we keep this SaaS and cloud data in region as well.
I think it is very important, not only just important, but the most important thing for me, besides this sovereign aspect, which is key for many customers and many partners, because now the partners are also getting up to gear with the necessity of addressing that. What's good with IQ is that it provides options and
Hmm.
options that you can trigger when and if you need it. So the capacity to switch different clouds, the capacity to switch different platforms is really key for customers. Even though at OVHcloud we believe we provide some of the best solutions, you have to also enable freedom and thus no vendor locking and no blockage for customers and partners to move their workload as they please. So I think that the options HYCU offers on that segment is really key for the product.
Amazing. Yeah, I think that's a great point. The data freedom and no vendor locking is incredibly important. Yes, and just want to bring you in quickly on this one for the Nutanix objects piece. So, if people aren't kind of familiar with Nutanix objects, you're able to give just a quick overview. I'm sorry, I put you on the spot a little bit. And in our pre-planning call, I didn't mention I was going to ask you this, but I think it's important for people that maybe don't understand what Nutanix objects is and Nutanix unified storage, just to give us a brief 1 minute kind of overview on what that offers and what and kind of the benefits of using Nutanix objects and HYCU together.
Yeah, so Nutanix objects is unified storage from Nutanix is built in our scale out architecture, delivering unified storage S3 compatible API where customers can consume S3 buckets directly with the REST set of features. So they can do versioning, they can do warm, for example. So write once, read many technology. They can do object lock. This is really useful if you in the ransomware and the protection against this kind of attack, because we will put a lock on each bucket to make sure that the bucket is immutable or immutable, so no one can modify the object that you will create, the backups you will create. Because again, when cyber attacker enter in customer infrastructure, the first target of cyber attacker is not the VMs first, it's the backup, it's the risk,
Yep.
because he will try to destroy backup snapshot and then destroy the VMs. This is how the flow happen. This flow happen in few minutes. It's not like days, but few minutes. But the cyber attacker like live in the data center for months, like 6 months, 7 months. But the attack can be fast, and this is why our object storage can also help to protect against ransomware, because we have this technology of object lock, immutability of data, versioning, and also I will talk about data lance later, because we have also what we call data lance that will help you to protect against ransomware. But this is something I will address later on the presentation.
Amazing. Thank you, Yasin. Thank you very much.
Questions? I don't know if some are already answered. So maybe I'll ask a question to Marwan about how many Nutanix OVH region exists today? If Marwan can take this question.
Yeah, the Nutanix on OVHcloud product is available in 3 regions in North America, in Canada, and in 2 data centers in the US, East Coast and West Coast. And it's available in 4 regions in Europe, in England, 2 data centers in France and in Germany. And obviously, we are expanding. Right now, we are working on the APAC region, and many more regions will come as we go along.
Okay. We have a couple of other questions, Chris. I don't know if you want us to get
Yeah,
there.
let's do them. Let's do them now. Yeah, let's go for it. Let's go for some questions now.
So other question regarding, it's possible to have a backup on Nutanix storage and a copy on OVH.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we give you flexibility with HYCU, so you can have multiple different copies. Actually, on the screen right now answers my questions. Diversifying your data portfolio by storing copies on multiple different immutable platforms. That's exactly what the question answers. So thank you. Yeah, absolutely. We can support multiple different copies on multiple different platforms, including objects, OVHs3, and even on the Nutanix platform itself. So we have a fast restore functionality as well.
So question about the OVHcloud, like Nutanix OVHcloud location, though. We are talking to Germany, so Marwan, it's a Frankfurt region, right?
That's correct. To be more precise, it's in the Limburg city, which is right next to Frankfurt.
Okay. We have, yeah, okay, other questions. What is the number one selling cyber vault?
The number one cyber resilience vault is actually the Dell offering. I'm actually at Dell Technology World, and so I'm in Las Vegas this week. So we introduced we're compatible with Dell Data Domain, their DD Booster protocol, so we can store data away in an isolated environment. So that gives everyone an extra level of protection. It's kind of like immutability on steroids, if you will. Most customers may not need it or may not think they require it, but some industries, want to take it to an extra level and have a fully air-gapped copy, with no internet access, nothing at all. So that's what that is there.
There was one question regarding how you can use OVH, Nutanix, and HYCU to extend the production environment. I can probably take that one. The
Yeah,
idea
go for it.
behind the partnership between OVHcloud, Nutanix, and HYCU was to be able via OVHcloud to go through a one-stop shop, meaning that we can address all the aspects of the workload requirement in terms of backup. You can get the Nutanix cluster. You can get it whether you consume it via bring your own license or via a licensed model from OVHcloud. You can also purchase the HiQ subscription and pay it on a monthly basis directly from OVHcloud. And finally, we provide also the storage and the repartition across our 40 plus data centers, thus making you really safe on the backup and resilience aspect. There was another
Amazing.
also, Chris, maybe you want to take that one.
Yeah, go for it.
Is it possible to migrate from VMware or hyperscalers to Nutanix on OVHcloud leveraging the HiQ solution?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, everything we do at HYCU is about choice, flexibility, and options for customers. So yeah, so natively built into the product, we have cross hypervisor and cross cloud recovery. So you can move from VMware using HYCU, back it up. A great idea would be to backing it up onto object storage in OVHcloud, and then you can pull directly from that object storage, restore that into a Nutanix environment that's been spun up on OVHcloud as well. So yeah, and also same for cloud repatriation as well. We're seeing that as a quite a big trend. People that went cloud early, on cloud first in the public cloud have decided now actually I'm going to start regaining control and bring my things back locally. I like the idea of the the OpEx model, but I don't want it sat in a public cloud. I want it sat on a little bit more closer to home, right? So this is where OVHcloud and Nutanix really do kind of bridge that massive gap. They still give you all of the benefits of the public cloud, but giving you a bit more control on a bit more of a trusted platform, probably a more secure platform with Nutanix, and giving you more feature sets and more predictable pricing, more predictable performance, probably a higher performance level as well that Maran explained earlier as well. So yeah, absolutely full cross hypervisor and cross cloud mobility as well.
There was a question for you, Yassin, I believe. Does Nutanix offers the same protection mechanism by design?
Yeah, sure. So Nutanix align with the NIST cybersecurity framework. So are aligned with the 5 functions, identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover, and govern as well. So the idea here is that we will protect 3 layers. The first layer is the platform itself. The platform itself, and I will talk about how we provide better security with OVHcloud versus other platforms. So here we will protect the platform using secure platform using what we call security dashboard. So the security dashboard is a dashboard in Prism Central that will identify the CVEs, the vulnerabilities that you will have in the platform, will be able to give you a hardening implemented in the dashboard. You don't need to read, the guide for the handling. Hardening built in the platform by default, align with the stakes. You will be able to enforce the intrusion detection, high complex password, for example, dual lockdown to the cluster SSH, and then this is the platform itself. And on top of that, we protect the data and the network. For data, we offer data at rest encryption. So the beauty of thing here is that data at rest encryption support the software encryption, so software provided by Nutanix, but at OVHcloud, we will benefit from the hardware encryption. And
Absolutely.
unique to our partnership with OVH, they are the only hyperscaler today that offer physical encryption using self-encryption drives. So it
Absolutely.
means that this is the highest level of security for your data.
And we actually also provide the KMS to manage it.
And then, yeah, the KMS from OVH is already validated IHV already. So that you can already use Nutanix encryption with KMS or software encryption or hardware encryption, different combination. But you have all the pieces that are already available to make sure your data is safe. Okay.
There was another question maybe for you, Chris, which is really interesting because I can see why it confuses some people. The question is this: what is R Shield? Is it some special version of HYCU, and is it deployable on-prem?
Yeah, so maybe I didn't make it particularly clear. So our Shield isn't a product, it's not a SKU, not anything you install. It's essentially a cyber resilience fabric that we at HYCU have weaved into our product. So HYCU Our Cloud is the actual product that we sell and you install and you run. And then our Shield is essentially the cybersecurity fabric that runs all the way through it. So essentially, it's everything from a bit like what Yasin's just said around the NIST framework. We align to that as well. So essentially, protecting the platform, giving you detection capabilities to look at data, and we're going to come on to that in a second in a few slides. But essentially, it's not a product. It's not install. It's there by default. You don't have to install a special version. As soon as you download HYCU R Cloud and run it, or you install it from OVHcloud, that license that you get from OVHcloud will include our Shield as well. So it's part of our premium package. But it's all built in, so you don't need to worry about it. You don't have to turn it on or switch it or make sure you've been able to flag anywhere. It's essentially like an ethos that we've built into our company and built into our product. So everything that we do, so whether you're backing up Nutanix or whether you're deciding to back up Microsoft 365 or any of the other products or any of the other services or data sets that we do, our Shield is compatible with all of those throughout that. So it's not a product, not something you have to install or turn on. It's just built there by design, and everything we do moving forward will have our Shield built into it and weave through it.
There was a question from Jürgen. So on-prem HYCU backup to OVHcloud storage to NC2 on OVHcloud. So yeah, it's interesting, first of all, that you use the terminology NC2, and not to tease you, keep an eye on that terminology. And finally, yeah, that's absolutely the classical play, meaning that you back up your data on top of the Nutanix native resilience. You back it up onto an S3 storage in the region that you target. And once you have done that, should you require it, you can always leverage that backup in order to restore it on the cluster that you can spin on demand at OVHcloud. So that's the typical classical play.
Yep.
And there was a funny question: when OVHcloud will become purple? Uh, let's see what the future holds, I would say. Let's see what the future holds. Because I'm surrounded. HYCU is purple, or Nutanix is purple. So maybe just for the sake of difference, I'll remain blue for now.
You are in the middle of purples.
Exactly.
Yeah, purple sandwich. Yeah,
So your blue will
absolutely.
be the layers of purple as well.
Yeah.
Exactly. So back to you, Chris, for the rest of the presentation.
Amazing. Perfect. Yeah, like, I'll make sure we whiz through because we've got a few more slides to get through. But yeah, amazing questions, everyone. Thank you, and keep asking questions. This isn't the one and only Q&A, so I'll make sure that we leave a few minutes at the end to make sure that anything that we cover from now until the end we have a bit of time for. I think we've covered immutability pretty well. I'll just quickly gloss over it really quickly. So with HYCU you don't turn immutability on. As soon as you set that bucket in Nutanix objects or OVHcloud S3 storage to have object lock on, everything you put into that bucket suddenly becomes immutable. You don't need to do it. It's there by default, and that's the idea of this. And then the storage independence piece is incredibly important. We spoke about data control, data freedom, data sovereignty, and no vendor lock-in. That's exactly what storage independence give you. So obviously, everyone should be using OVH and OVH Cloud S3 storage and Nutanix objects. But if for whatever reason you don't want to use that, if you have something on premise already you've already invested in, if you have a particular great, amazing deal you've managed to get by somewhere else, right? You can use that for your backups as well. So we're giving you full independence there as well. And we move into always observing. So discovering your estate, identify app-specific anomalies, and then scan for ransomware. So anomaly detection. Again, I'm going to talk quite quickly. We haven't got that long left on the session, so I want to make sure we get through it. So anomaly detection is going to be specific for each workload. And I know that Yasin's going to come in about data lens in a bit about this, but essentially for VMs, we're going to look at things like the change rate of backups, for instance. So that's going to be a typical anomaly we look at. Yesterday your backups changed 7%. Today they've changed 75%. That's a big anomaly. That's something that needs to be flagged to administrators to say, hey, something doesn't look right in the environment. That's something you can investigate. Hey, it might have just been Gary from the database team who's encrypted all of his database suddenly. That's fine. It was still anomalous. We still need to report it. Inside of file shares, it might not be the amount of percentage change, it might be the amount of files that have changed or something like that. And then as we look into as a service applications, the percentage of data change, how do you manage that across Okta, for instance? Okta is such a smaller data set, it's just configuration. So the actual percentage change isn't something we look at. It's actually we look at the number of objects or the number of policies that have changed inside of Okta to give you that yesterday, 2 policies changed. Today, 200 policies changed or 200 objects changed. So again, we're giving you that visibility across that whole data estate as well. And this is my favorite slide. This is my favorite feature that we've introduced quite recently. This is fast, efficient ransomware scanning for Nutanix via virtual machines, and we're going to be doing file systems as well, very, really soon. So essentially, what we do is we give you that rapid detection. So when HYCU takes a backup, we use the Nutanix snapshot functionality, which is redirect on write. Yes, and actually, do you want to come in just quickly and explain the Nutanix snapshot just quickly so people understand that it's not like a VMware snapshot, just to make sure that people are clear that we're not going to slow down production.
Yeah, right. So the technique we use here is for snapshot. To snapshot are, just keeping an image or a copy of a recovery point for the VMs. So how it works is that at Nutanix, that when you take a snapshot, we will do redirect on write. It's not just copying and then copying the data, so this would impact the performance. But you have this technique, or when the VM do an IO for write, we will do redirect in the same time on write. So this means that there will be no impact on the performance for snapshots, and then the snapshot can be like storage snapshot, or they can be app consistent snapshot. Means that we can interact with the operating system. So this requires what we call NGT tool, which is the tool that you install inside the VMs, like VMware tools. And then we'll be able to do app consistent snapshot to make sure the snapshot is app consistent and not just storage or block consistent. Yeah.
Amazing, thanks, Yasin. So yeah, so we essentially utilize the Nutanix snaps for our backups. So when you take a backup with HYCU, we automatically take those snapshots and then we take them, pluck them off platform in an OVHcloud or Nutanix objects, whatever it was. But essentially, what we can now do is utilizing those snapshots that we have is now scan them. So you can have a full Yara scanning on your those snapshots that are there. Again, no production impact to your virtual machines because the snapshot isn't the production system. We're not impacting the backup because the backup's already been taken. We essentially scan those snapshots and give you insight into your backups. So say, yeah, we found some ransomware, we found malware inside of your environment. It's a really, really amazing thing to be able to do that and give it back to you and give that insights back to your customers. And the beauty of this, it runs on production grade equipment, right? So it runs on the Nutanix platform itself. So we're not relying on, potentially relatively slow storage in backup appliances. We're not relying on cloud storage or retrieving data from cloud, increasing egress costs to scan it. We're doing it on the platform where the data lives. We give you that double protection. So we give you that anomaly detection plus the Yara scanning makes a really, really comprehensive, scanning technique. So giving the anomalies plus the actual deep data scanning. And we give you the backup storage independence again. So you can utilize the use case that one of the questions we had there. I'm running a Nutanix on premise with HYCU backing it up into OVHcloud S3 storage. Well, that's going direct to cloud backup, right? We can still utilize the Yara scanning, utilizing direct to cloud backup. No one else can do that. It's amazing. And then I'm going to introduce Yasin to talk about Nutanix Data Lens and how that kind of protects your data on the file servers.
Sure, thanks. So here, Nutanix Data Lens is our data governance and security solution for unstructured data. So it means Nutanix files. Files means the NAS, the NFS and SMP access, and also S3 object storage. So here, as you will see in the screen, there's like animation. We have like a proactive and detective role in protecting against ransomware. For example, if there is an attack, we'll be able, thanks to Data Lens, to detect plus 5,000 ransomware signature, and then we can take actions. So some actions as you see in the screen, as we can block the access to the share, for example. We can move the share to a read-only share, so blocking the access or blocking even the IP of the user will be able to alert you. We'll then make sure that we provide you the cleanest snapshot to allow you to restore and they have this fast return for files. Okay, this is really important because we'll have the visibility, we'll have the response for actions in case of ransomware attack, and this will help you on your strategy against ransomware. And Data Lens provide other set of features, but due to lack of time, we will maybe move forward at the
Yeah,
other.
we'll have to do another session on data lens. I love data lens.
Yeah.
I love looking at it. It's amazing. It's an amazing piece of tech. And yeah, and soon to happen, we'll have our malware scanning on Nutanix files to kind of really bolster that protection as well between the two. So the last thing is always ready, and this is probably the most important piece. I know we haven't got a huge amount of time, so I'll make sure we kind of whiz through this a little bit. So at HYCU, we give you fully validated recovery points, and what does that mean? Well, essentially means we validate your data before you recover it. So on a policy basis, you can go in and tell us to validate your data once a day, twice a day, once a week, whatever it might be, and we actually then do test restores of your backups, report back into HYCU to say, yep, everything was fine, your backups restored perfectly. And then we have SLA assurance and monitoring. So what does that mean? Well, guess what? Everyone is beholden to SLAs. So RPO and RTOs are typical ones we talk about in data protection. So inside of the HYCU policy, you actually define what your RPO and your RTO needs to be. And on a continuous basis, HYCU will alert to say, yes, we've backed up within the time frame. So once a day, for instance, for your RPO every 24 hours. But then if you wanted to recover within 2 hours, we actually monitor things like network traffic, storage speeds, etc., to make sure on a continuous basis you could recover that data back in the time frame. So giving you that RTO assurance. And then we have full resilience testing as well. And the last piece here is the recover with flexibility. So with hybrid cloud, we have high speed production recovery directly back onto the Nutanix platform. We've mentioned cross hypervisor and cross platform recovery as well. And we can also do clean room recovery. This is an ideal use case for something like an OVHcloud. Spin up a brand new cluster. It's clean. It's there. Restore clean data into the clean room, knowing your infrastructure is completely clean to recover to. And then we look at cloud native. Again, we've got high speed recovery directly back into those platforms. We can then do cross-regional recovery. So if you wanted to go from US East to US West with those cloud native tools, you can do. And then cross-cloud recovery, taking that data and moving it from Azure to AWS, for instance. And then in SaaS, the biggest piece here is, again, we can restore data back into that SaaS application, of course. We can recover data between different instances. So for instance, if you've got a sandbox instance of that SaaS, you can then recover data back into your sandbox instance to recover quickly. Or the biggest one here is the offline recovery. Again, this is the one that mitigates those third-party risk attacks. And I'm just going to hand over to Yasin quickly to do the data recovery with the snapshots with Nutanix because they've got some really cool ways of doing that with their own technology, bolstered by HYCU as well.
Yeah, I will try to to share in 30 seconds because we are running out of time. So DR should be part of the, ransomware strategy. So we need to make sure that you have DR, could be sync DR or sync DR. With OVHcloud, what you can imagine that you have your premise site, it's Nutanix, and you want to protect DR. So you can build the DR using our DR orchestration at Nutanix and make sure that we can restore clean snapshots when your primary site is infected during an attack. This is something we have already developed. It's handy, available to use, and you can consume, use it DR. And RPU that is suitable for your applications. Yeah.
Amazing, thank you, Yasin. Thanks for consolidating that down.
Yeah.
Let me talk about the third-party supply chain risk. So if we've got Box or Atlassian or Office 365, for instance, we obviously give you logically separated backups, as we said, storing that on Nutanix objects or OVHcloud in customer-owned storage. And what we have the ability at HYCU here is to give you readable access. So in the case of a supply chain attack, let's say Office 365 or Box or Atlassian suite is down, most organizations won't be able to access their data. What we can do is we can give you readable access, exported to things like maybe a Nutanix files share, give that access, and you can share that back out directly from the platform we backed it up to, or through the OVH bucket, for instance, giving you readable access to data that you wouldn't have access to if there was a supply chain attack. So, for instance, maybe it's your end of year and you need to submit some accounts, and that accounts is stored on a VM or on a file server or something like that, or in box.com. We can give you that readable access to that data so you can actually get to it without actually having the application up and running. So that is what R Shield and the R Shield story is. I'll put this on the screen. So there's some next steps for everybody. So there's a solution brief from Nutanix on here, which is the Nutanix and HYCU and how we protect data and against ransomware. Then we've got some information from OVHcloud here. So information is for HYCU and then from Nutanix directly to their website. And we've got a Nutanix cyber resilience checklist from HYCU. And if you want to experience R Shield or R Cloud or both, well, we can't really experience R Shield on its own. It comes with R Cloud. But if you want to experience HYCU by yourself, there's a demo request here, so you can get in touch with one of our team and do a tailored demo. So I know we are a few minutes over. Do we have any more questions that we want to answer? Just while we're here, I don't know if anyone can read those out.
There was a question regarding recovery testings before you restore. How does HYCU cover that scope?
Yeah, so we've got the validated recovery point. So we recover. So we automatically validate on a policy basis. But you also have runbooks available to do resilience testing as well. So you can test the particular app workflows or runbooks and those types of things utilizing our tool as well. So you could do that on demand or on a schedule as you needed.
There was also a question regarding the classic webinar questions. Can we have the slides afterward?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course you can. Yeah, we'll get those sent out and a recording of the webinar as well.
Awesome.
Amazing. No more questions. So I appreciate that we've gone a few minutes over, so I apologize for that. And normally we're quite prudent on time, but we had some great questions in the middle of the webinar. We wanted to make sure that we got answered. So thank you for your input. Thank you, Maran. Thank you, Yasin, for joining me. And if you have any more questions, check out the links on the screen right now, and you'll get through to one of our teams. Thank you very much, team. Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.